Hey guys, Veronica here, and welcome back to another exciting episode in the greenhouse. If you're one of those people who's been sitting there wondering if I'm ever going to finish my IMO project, you're in luck because that's exactly what we're doing today, or at least getting it to a stage that's easier to move on from. So for anyone who's just joining and has no idea what I'm talking about, a couple of, I want to say months ago now, yeah, almost a couple of months ago, we went out into the woods and captured indigenous microorganisms in a basket of rice, and then they went into hibernation with some brown sugar in this jar, and they've been waiting for this moment for most of their propagated lives so far, and it is finally here. So just to get anyone out there who again doesn't know what I'm talking about up to speed, this basically, and I'll show you this, so I have this covered with this paper. I don't recommend doing it like this. It's very difficult to control the temperature in a contained environment such as a plastic tub, but with 6 dogs running around who like to eat everything that smells like bread, it was the only safe bet I had to actually get this propagation moving forward without it getting consumed and having to clean up messes constantly inside the house. So I have just the grain bag that my substrate came in, covering it because getting leaves, they were a little bit wet and it just wasn't going to work out. You'll notice when you look at this, it kind of looks like what you would buy if you were doing bokashi composting. And you technically could use this once it's finished for the bokashi composting sort of project. Now, what is the difference between this and bokashi? So most composting sort of amendments that you're going to buy in order to help break down food scraps more effectively are going to include something by the name of either BE1 or EM1. They're effective microorganisms. They'll also put lab or lactobacilli. And all of those things are in here, essentially. The difference between the microorganisms that you can buy online in a bottle and occasionally at some nurseries and what we've collected to make this happen is that the microbes that are involved in this whole setup are indigenous to the land here. Now, what does that mean? It basically means that they're going to be better at supporting any plant life in the soil than just those sort of broad spectrum ones. Now, the broad spectrum ones are great and basically found globally, which is why they're used in those sorts of setups, but not so much if you're growing in pots, but definitely if you're growing in the ground. I think that the indigenous microorganisms are going to be slightly more effective because they're really tailored to your soil and your environment where you're located. So that's why we went through the trouble of collecting them, aside from the fact that they're a lot less expensive. You know, a basket from the thrift store and some cooked rice is a lot less expensive than a $30 or $40 bottle of effective microorganisms. But they basically run the same sort of course, kind of do the same things. You may have a little bit better line of defense moving forward by using a culture that you would find locally. And so this has been going, this tub, it's 100 pounds here. There's 50 pounds of rice bran and 50 pounds of oats. I had the oats to begin with, and then I found a rice bran, so I decided to use both together, basically to create a substrate that the microorganism collection, as well as a lactobacilli collection that I did, call it labs, and a couple of other additives that I've made with the Korean natural farming methods, mixing all of that into here and give them something to kind of, you know, colonize and eat and grow on, so that we can then mix this with soil out in the compost pile that's mostly soil and clay. And then from there, what I'll do is use it, you know, in various parts of either the field or around trees and whatnot that really are in need of some TLC. Maybe the soil is a little bit dead. I've tested some here and there with my microbiometer, and it's not like super hot as far as on the microbe scales. Like, it doesn't really register a whole lot. So hoping to kind of breathe life back into that soil with the help of these Korean natural farming methods. So I set this up, I want to say 7 or 8 days ago now. It's kind of at its peak, peak fermentation, and I've been checking it basically every couple hours for the last few days with a digital thermometer just to kind of get an idea, because, and I'll show you the this drawing that I got from, I went to the Korean natural farming workshop that was put on by Natural Farming Hawaii. And so there's this drawing that basically tells you what temperature, as far as your compost pile or your IMO propagation pile, what temperatures are most effective to give you the highest diversity of microbes. And you'll see on this that you really want to keep it turned, because if you keep it turned, then you can keep it kind of under 120 degrees and get that much lower nice arc. And so you won't get all of the thermolytic microbes exclusively, which are all the high heat ones, but you'll also get some of like the lower temperature ones. And it's a better diversity of players to then put back into your soil where it needs it, as far as my understanding goes. Because if you overcook it, then you're only going to have, you know, very specific microbes, but you're probably going to be missing some of the good ones that you want in there. So keeping an eye on the temperature. We're going to see if it's too high right now. And so yeah, we're pushing 120. Again, I said we're on day 7 or 8. Oh, we're pushing 130. So we're going to turn this pile, and I'll just show you really fast. How I go about turning this pile. It's super simple. I have this, let's see, I have this composting fork. Not composting fork, but it's just it's like a garden fork. If you want to catch the tag on it, because this is probably one of my most favorite tools. Not sponsored or anything, but it's Radius Garden. And it's my most favorite tool for turning stuff because I'm not a super tall person, and so I like the short amount of leverage, and I like the way the handle is, and it gives me less blisters. But we'll see if this guy is steamy. Again, we don't want it to get way too hot, and it's definitely starting to get up there. So, and you'll see, the fun thing that I've noticed is whenever I come out in the mornings to turn this the last few days, is there's just like tons of steam that comes off. And also there's little bits of fully colonized pieces of oats that are just like super white and fuzzy. And I don't see any on top right now because I have turned it several times today because it's been rather warm. But if you were to do this and you don't have a bunch of dogs that will eat it like I do, then I highly recommend doing it outside on the soil someplace that you can either cover it with grass or leaves or a tarp. And it'll be much easier to spread it out to work with this temperature in the days of like somewhere between day 6 and day 9 really is when it starts to heat up and it's just difficult to control. And in a closed environment like this, you're not going to be doing yourself any favors. So I just wanted to show you, because as I turn this, there's like little balls of substrate. And so I just wanted to show you this little ball of substrate. And so this is what we're looking for. Let me do it here. I'll do it on the other camera because I have a better focus on it. But this is basically what we're looking for in terms of growth, is that sort of white fuzzy colonization. You can see I'm going to break it open right here. And as this grows, it'll continue. Oh yeah, there we go. Whoop. So you can see that it's starting to get that nice white fuzz. If you've ever done bokashi composting, that's basically what you're looking for. And so that is a lot of variety as far as like microbes and fungi and whatnot, just holding the substrate together. And that's exactly what we're looking for, because if you have these webs holding stuff together, then you have these webs that will then be working through your soil, delivering nutrients to your plants, banking a lot more water than in whatever your soil currently does, more than likely. So I just think I think it's so cool. Like, you know, you get excited over something that looks like mold again, but it blows my mind. It really does smell like a bakery in here right now, like a really funky sourdough bakery, but that's the scent that we want. If it starts getting more towards that like hot, wet asphalt smell, then we're in trouble. But right now, it still smells good when I turn it, so I'm stoked about that. I'm hoping that it will be far enough along by morning, which would be, I want to say day 9, and somewhere between 7 and 11 is sort of how long it typically takes, depending on your temperatures and whatnot, wherever you're doing it. But I want to say hopefully it's ready by the morning so that I can mix it into the big compost pile out there so that it'll be ready to go for whenever my dad needs it. Now, if I'm talking like this is it, it's because it kind of is right now. So I'm actually planning on relocating in the very near future, like going on a road trip in the next few days to visit various soil builders who are doing it at scale that I've been talking with now for a couple of months or maybe even years, and seeing, you know, how are they accomplishing this at scale, because my ultimate goal in life is to get as much healthy soil in the ground wherever possible, through whatever means possible. So looking at various waste streams and figuring out how can we incorporate this sort of thinking to move towards regenerative agriculture on a much larger scale. So I'm trying to set my dad up for success here so that he has inputs that are regenerative to work with. And then I'm going to go off and do that for a lot more people. So I really hope that you continue to follow along and check this out. I'm hoping to check back in here in the next couple of months just to see how things are going and, you know, what he needs help with and whatnot. But in the meantime, I do think that this is at least going to start getting him and the plants here, and especially the fruit trees here, on a much better track than they've been on with any sort of synthetic fertilizers. So really my main goal here was to kind of move towards regenerative, see what it takes to execute that, and I really wanted to finish this project before I started off on the next adventure because this was a large component. So I will say there's a few things I've learned in doing this over the last week. It does need a tiny bit more babysitting, like halfway through the process, or probably 2/3 of the way through the process than I originally anticipated it to. It probably didn't really get started until like day 6 or day 7, like I said. So it's like in the last couple of days, I've noticed the temperature is starting to go up. And we can take, actually in the part I turned, I can show you now where it's at. It's still going to be fairly high. What? But yeah, so I'll probably continue turning this after we cut here. It's at that sort of peak moment where everything's sort of really rapidly replicating. But one of the things that I wanted to say as far as things I've learned from it are that if you can sort of schedule, if you decide to do this, and you can schedule like day 6 or 7, or especially like 7 and 8, to be on a weekend where you're around and you can turn it, or if you work from home or if you're a farmer, it's even better because then you can just kind of, you know, Pomodoro technique it and turn it every so often, or spreading it in a much larger space. You know, like if this were 50 pounds in here, I'd probably be fine. With 100 pounds, it's a little bit deep, so there's a lot of heat that's being created by these fermentation processes. But definitely, you know, kind of clear your calendars for the day 7, day 8, day 9 to make sure that you can keep an eye on it so you don't lose your entire culture. It's, I think, fairly easy. I've been checking every like 2 hours or so, sometimes once an hour depending on what the temperature is registering. As it gets dark, then I'll be able to kind of leave it overnight and maybe, you know, turn it before bed and then come out in the morning. It'll be just over 120, or it'll be on the decline now because it's been doing that for 2 days as far as at peak temperatures. And so that will be nice because that will mean that I can mix it into the compost. It's going in the compost tomorrow whether or not it's ready, but I think that it's far enough along now that it should be pretty close to ready. And I'll get a shot of it here in the morning if there's like really good fungal activity like that ball that I showed you earlier, because I'm starting to see signs of that, so that's exciting. Another thing that I wish that I had known before venturing into this is that not a whole lot happens the first couple of days. And so if you mix it and you're, you know, turning it every couple hours, or maybe like before you go to work and after you get home, that sort of thing, then days like 1 through 4, you're kind of going to be like, is this really working? Is it wet enough? Is there enough stuff in it? just let it be, you know, give it a couple of turns a day. By day 5, you're gonna see temperatures start to go up and go, oh yeah, I got this. And then by like day 6 or 7, you're probably gonna be panicking because the temperatures are through the roof. But hopefully you're doing it on native soil somewhere out in the yard that you can spread it out a little bit thinner so that you don't have to turn it constantly. So anyway, that's what's going on here. I'm hoping that as I go down this road trip to visit other soil builders, I'm able to film a significant amount so that I can share with you guys. I can't make any promises, but you know, if you're looking for a reason to hit the subscribe button, I think that that would be a really good one. Hopefully we're able to sync up with some of the scientists at the places I'm stopping and get a better explanation than I can give for a lot of these things. And yeah, it should be really fun. So I'm super excited about that. So if you like what you see or you want to see that in the very near future, then hit that subscribe button. I think it'll be over here today. And ding that bell and follow me on Instagram at FlavorKit for all of this sort of stuff and more. If you are wondering where I've gone, I'm usually on Instagram and just don't have the bandwidth to make a video at that moment. So subscribe, Instagram, and until next time, happy gardening.